This is the Silicon Dynasty 2 tournament where Owen Barry with his Kinnan Bounder prodigy got 6 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw, a 75% win rate in that tournament and won the whole thing. So, deck tech video. If we take a quick look at what the guy is playing, we have Karn the Great Creator and Tesseract the Seeker as planeswalkers. Now what we can actually do is take a look at individual card, how they have performed. So let's explain what you're actually seeing here. Just above my head you have a count, total decks 178. That's this thing. Here you can see Kinnan Bounder Prodigy and all of the players who have played Kinnan and their individual wins and win rate and what tournament they participated in. And if we calculate the average win rate by taking the wins versus the total games played in that tournament, equal win plus losses plus draw, wins versus that total, you get an average win rate by calculating them all together to be 24.26. We also get the average draw rate, how often Kinnan is getting a draw, and here I'm gonna say 16% chance. To put that into some perspective, TIAM has a 25.3 average win rate, but a much higher draw rate from 68 deck entries. We have Malcolm and Tymna, an average win rate of 23.71, much lower draw rate from 59 decks that have entered into tournaments. Gitrog Monster, 15% win rate, that's really bad, only count of 16 decks. And then we have Atraxa the Grand Unifier on a 27.14% average win rate from 98 decks. So that should give you some form of perspective how good Kinnan is performing. However, if we go back here to Tesseract the Seeker that we talked about previously, above the total decks you have Play It 130, and in this pie chart you can see the percentage, the inclusion rate of how many decks among the 178 actually included Tesseract the Seeker. But now we're doing a different thing, we're calculating the average win rate, same kind of calculation but with a different group. This time we're only calculating the average from the 130, the decks that did include Tesseract the Seeker, and here we see an average win rate of 25.77, which means that it's better than the average. Including Tesseract the Seeker means that you're performing better compared to the total average of all Kinnan decks together. Same thing can be done with Karn the Great Creator. This actually surprises me. I didn't think Karn would be a good card inside Kinnan, but among the 41 decks that did have included Karn, it's getting a very good win rate, kinda equal to how Atraxa was performing. Back to the winning deck list, we have Birds of Paradise, Colossal Sky Turtle, that also sits with a better win rate compared to the average. What we kinda see here are good suggestions of cards. Looking at statistics might indicate cards that be good to include inside your deck. So it has an inclusion rate of 31.5% and a pretty decent average win rate coming with it. Consecrated Sphinx. This is also sitting on a very positive average win rate, 24.63%, which is, okay, I'm actually gonna say it's pretty much close to the average, but it's a tiny bit better. But also look at the inclusion rate. When the average win rate is quite equal to the average, then while the inclusion rate is really high, it's an indicator that this is a very popular card among all Kinnan players. Delighted Halfling, Elvish Spirit Guide, Endurance, Fairy Mastermind. Fairy Mastermind is actually a card that I've seen perform quite well in various different decks here and there. Endurance is also coming with a positive win rate. Back to his deck list, we have Spellseeker, Seedborn Muse. Spellseeker is actually sitting on a 25.38% win rate. However, if you look at the bottom, result is not statistically significant. The p-value is not desired. If you actually look at the count of Play It, it's a very low sample size, which means that the win rate you're seeing up there might include random luck basically. So it's not guaranteed that this would be the indicated win rate for Spellseeker. But Seedborn Muse is doing some really good job. Now, it's not included by everyone, but close to everyone, and when a lot of decks are including it, the win rate of this individual card will be pretty close to the average. However, because everyone is including it, is also an indication that Seedborn Muse is performing good according to a lot of Kinnan players' experience. Then we're playing Fasa's Oracle. So I've been trying to say that Fasa's Oracle is a bad card for Kinnan. So here we have an average win rate of 21.79 when you include Fasa's Oracle. It has an inclusion rate about 30%, so 1/3 of all Kinnan players are kinda playing it, 53 decks of the 178. And as you can see here, if you're including Fasa's Oracle, your average win rate is decreased a tiny bit compared to the average. Now the player that actually won the tournament still included Fasa's Oracle in his deck, so it should be good. However, you don't actually need it. If we're going back to his deck list, the way to win with Fasa's Oracle is by generating infinite mana or infinite activations with Kinnan, finding Thrasius and then drawing the entire deck with Thrasius and casting Fasa's Oracle after you've drawn it. However, looking here, we have Walking Ballista that can do the exact same thing. If you draw your entire deck, you can cast Walking Ballista X equals infinite and kill all opponents. But also, you have a Final of Devastation, draw your entire deck with Thrasius, put all creatures into play, attack and swing for the mega win. Let's scroll down a little bit towards the artifacts that he's playing. Augada's Soul's Cauldron. This is a new card and therefore it hasn't received a huge play testing. So the sample size here is only 27, and as you can see down there, the test to verify if that win rate up there is trustworthy isn't showcasing that the win rate up there is trustworthy. Result is not statistically significant just because we haven't play tested with it yet enough. However, it is showcasing a good potential. That is the same average win rate similar to Atraxa. And I personally think that Augada's Soul's Cauldron might be an all-star inside Kinnan, because instead of using green-blue, you can use colorless to activate Kinnan, and that's exactly what you need, because everything is more or less focused around the Basalt Monolith, generating infinite mana with his 3 mana cost artifact. That naturally takes us to Trophy Mage, a card he is playing. It's a human, so he can't flip into it. But if we look at the average win rate for Trophy Mage, it's 26.43% with a very high inclusion rate close to 70%. So 2/3 of all the Kinnan decks are playing Trophy Mage. And it is definitely showcasing a very good result here. He's also playing Fabricate. The 3 mana cost sorcery that can find Basalt Monolith is sitting on a 26.75% average win rate with an inclusion rate of 61%, so it also seems to be a very recommended card. But he has more artifact tutors like Reshape and Transmute Artifact. Transmute Artifact is sitting on a 26.6% average win rate with a very high inclusion rate of 59%. I think there are budget reasons why it doesn't see a higher inclusion rate, if I'm gonna be honest. And then we have Reshape on a very low, or not very low, but 46 decks, which is a 25 average inclusion rate. The result is not statistically significant, so we can't truly trust the result here, but it's sitting on a close to 28% average win rate, so it seems to be showcasing a good result at the very least. He is also playing Whir of Invention, another way to tutor out Basalt Monolith in instant speed. Whir of Invention's inclusion rate is about 10% with 19 decks playing it, so it's a extremely low sample size we can't really trust. However, the win rate is a little bit lower. You see it in red text instead of green. That indicates that it's a lower win rate compared to the total average of all Kinnan decks together. Still though, the sample size is very low and it's very close to the average win rate, so might be a good card to consider still. Here is another strange artifact tutor, Moonsilver Key. It's a 2 mana cost artifact with 1 generic mana, tap it, sacrifice Moonsilver Key, search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability, which means that you can search out for Basalt Monolith. This Moonsilver Key is sitting on a 73.6% inclusion rate, so a lot of decks are playing it. It has an average win rate of 26.04, so that's a positive result, suggesting that it's a good card to consider. There are other tutors that could find Basalt Monolith that he is not playing. Drift of Phantasm, this has Transmute, so you can discard it, search your Basalt Monolith. I'm kinda confused. I thought more players would play this because this is not a cost, so you don't trigger Ristic Study, you ignore Rule of Law effects, and it's pretty much the same mana cost. Okay, it's 2 blue pips instead of 1 blue pip compared to Fabricate, but yeah, it has an extremely low inclusion rate. Another potential tutor that he is not playing is Intuition, also a very low inclusion rate, but it's sitting on a 21.88 average win rate. Not that good. He's also playing the One Ring. The card is a powerhouse. It is sitting on a 26.52 average win rate with an inclusion rate of, yeah, basically a 50-50 split. 53.4% of all the decks have included it. So yeah, it is showcasing a good performance. And I want to point something out. I've actually looked at this card on other deck lists, and including the One Ring have always kind of proven to be a good decision, increasing the average win rate by doing so. Now, how good is this player actually? He won the entire tournament, so he definitely knows what he's doing. But this is Owen Barry's average performance. 61.5% average win rate of all the tournament games he've entered with Kinnan. That's really good, guys. That's like really good win rate. However, it's only from 2 games, so it's not a huge sample size. The 2 games he've actually played with Kinnan, he has a average win rate on the first game 50% and the second game 75%. So the guy is showcasing some really promising result here. But we could take a look at some other players here and see their average win rate. This is Meister Pong. You might have heard his voice if you've watched some of my cEDH TV gameplay videos where he's been participating and actually playing Kinnan. Now he has a 44.44 average % win rate from 3 entries. And if we go and take a look at Meister Pong's, one of his deck lists, we can see that he's not playing Karn, he's playing Bloom Tender. Bloom Tender is doing a pretty decent okay job. It has a little bit average win rate lower compared to the big average, so maybe a card to consider cutting, but it's still pretty much equal to the average win rate still. This time we're playing Perplexing Chimera. Ugh, I really hate this card. Or okay, I kinda enjoy the card, but it's like sometimes it becomes extremely tricky playing through this thing. So, Perplexing Chimera has a, I'm gonna say 27 win rate here, with an 80 decks including it, basically 45% inclusion rate. So a lot of decks are actually playing it, and it is performing a good result. He's playing Void Winnower. You know what, even though it's slightly, I mean, it's pretty much identical. It has pretty much identical average win rate compared to the total average of all Kinnan decks. Both of them were actually playing Wandering Archaic. This one is performing better, but still it's pretty much close to the average. He's not playing Agata Sol's Cauldron, he's playing Transmute Artifact and Fabricate and Reshape and Trophy Mage. He's also playing Tight Spout Tyrant. Owen didn't do that. This 8-mana Genie seems to be actually a good consideration. It has an inclusion rate of 58.4%, so a lot of decks are playing it, 104 to be exactly, and the Tight Spout Tyrant has a 25.36 average win rate. Pretty good. But we have more Kinnan players that have been performing quite well. You might recognize this guy. This is comedian Ian, another YouTube content creator. He's sitting on a 42.86 average win rate with 3 games entered into tournaments. If we look at his deck list, he is playing Nessa Hall. The other 2 guys didn't do that, but he's playing Hullbreacher, he's not playing Tight Spout, he's not... Oh, sorry, there's the Tight Spout, I was blind. Void Winnower, that's Void Winnower. Wandering Archaic, he's playing more of the big... Oh, he's playing Koma. I personally don't like this big serpent in Kinnan. I know why people do like it. It's a 7 mana, 2 blue pips, 2 green pips, then 3 generic. Kinnan doesn't really care about that, like the casting cost isn't relevant. It has an inclusion rate of 45.5%, so a lot of decks are actually playing the big thing, but it's sitting on a 20.10% average win rate, which means that it's something like 4.10 or 4.14 or no, sorry, 4.16 less reduction in the win rate compared to the average, indicating that it's maybe not the best Kinnan card you could play. The reason why it is good is tap target permanent, its activated abilities can't be activated this turn by sacrificing one of your serpents that you're continuously creating. So I see the appeal, but according to some statistics here, and the sample size is still pretty large, it is not performing equal to other Kinnan decks, not including it. He's playing Bloom Tender, Consecrated, Colossal Sky Turtle, Transmute Artifact, the One Ring. He's not playing Agatha Soul's Cauldron, but I don't know exactly the date here when this deck tournament participated, so there's a chance Agatha Soul's Cauldron didn't exist when Ian actually played in this tournament. But he is going for a little bit more creature, like Kinnan activation, so to say, compared to the other two. I also want to showcase this guy, Max Sternberg. The guy has 37.8 average win rate. That is still really good. However, this guy has more entries with Kinnan compared to the other 3 people we've already looked at. This guy has 14 entries. The highest of all the Kinnan players with really good win rate. And I want to say this, when you're looking at someone's performance, you should look at how many games they've actually played, because that's an indicator that the win rate is actually correct. And being able to get a win rate this good from so many games, this guy is probably knows what he's doing. I mean, just look at this, it basically took up an entire page, more or less. Let's look at one of his deck lists. He's playing both Karn and Tesseract the Seeker, just like Owen. He's playing this thing, Armored Scrap Gorger. I've actually seen this card in a lot of different decks, and looking at statistics, it has a pretty high inclusion rate, 34.8%. So it's a mana dork that is a good blocker, that can become a free attacker, sometimes that matters, but it's also removing cards from opponent's graveyard, so it's like a little bit of an anti-Underworld Breach thing. So yes, I like it. It's like a mana dork, bad mana dork, but good mana dork inside Kinnan with some anti-graveyard interaction. So yeah, but look at this. It's sitting on a 27.1% win rate. That's good. He's playing Bloom Tender, Consecrated Sphinx, Endurance Nessahal again, Hullbreaker Horror, Tightbow Tyrant, Nyx Bloom Ancient, Perplexing Chimera. Why? But still, it actually saw some good performance. Void of Knower, Wandering Archaic, Seedborn Muse, Thorn Mammoth. As casual as Thorn Mammoth might look like, I mean still, Kinnan doesn't really care about the casting cost. 7 mana is not really a problem. Whenever Thorn Mammoth or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, this Mammoth, this 6/6, fights up to one target creature you don't control. So it's actually interaction versus creatures. When you activate Kinnan and flip into this, it's gonna kill something. When you activate Kinnan again and flip into something big like the Void of Knower or the Wandering Archaic, it's gonna kill something again. And if we look at the win rate on this Thorn Mammoth, it is sitting on a 25.71 average win rate. So that's thumbs up. He's playing Fabricate, Transmute Artifact, he's not playing Reshape, he's playing the One Ring, he is not playing Agatha Soul's Cauldron. This was actually a decision from him to not play Agatha Soul's Cauldron. As you can see, it's not here among the artifacts. Because this is a deck list that I know was created when Agatha Soul's Cauldron existed. So this person actually had the option to include Agatha Soul's Cauldron if he wanted to, but he didn't. Copy Artifact, Mystic Remora, and Rhystic Study, and he's down to 25 lands. I hope this little deck take video brought you some inspiration. A quick overview of what cards Kinnan players that have been performing really good are including inside their various Kinnan decks. but also some statistics and showcase of various different cards, how they have been performing inside the tournaments, good suggestions and bad suggestions. I really like this kind of statistics video that is showcasing inspiration, but also some numbers. If you have any feedback to this kind of style, suggestions or ideas, please leave a comment in the description below of the video and I will read that comment and take it into account if I can, in trying to implement it. Take care guys, see you next time.